Hello, my name is Rory Bradshaw, and I'm going to talk to you about the latest reporter templates in Oasys 19. The latest IIHS side impact template has now been updated to use the landscape format, as well as using the latest protocol and rating guidelines. As before, there's also a structure-only template which can be used, which gives you a summary of the structure-only performance. Similarly, the IIHS front ODB and SOB impacts have also been updated to the landscape format and use the new updated protocols and rating guidelines. There have been some improvements and modifications for the MPDB assessments. So for the compatibility assessment templates, support for renumbered ARP Selbon models has been improved, and the LSTC MPDB model is also now supported. And then for the occupant assessments, the Humanetics Store 50th percentile male version 1.8, the deflections are calculated from the relative displacement rather than using the elongation. So this will require you to update the CSV file if that's what you were using before. Next, the Euro NCAP side MDB and pull templates have been updated to use the latest assessment protocol, version 9.1.3, as well as changing the layout to landscape. Additionally, these templates offer the option of outputting an intrusion data file, which is written to the images directory. This can then be used as an input to the Euro NCAP far-side impact assessment template, and I will demonstrate this shortly. Lastly, there's an all-new Euro NCAP far-side impact assessment template. This template is designed to be run after the corresponding side impact for either the MDB or side pull barriers, and an output file is produced in these templates, which is then used as an input for the far-side assessment. I'll now demonstrate this in Reporter. I'm now going to demonstrate the Euro NCAP side and far-side impact assessment templates new in 2022. So firstly, I've just selected the automotive library templates, and then I've toggled on Euro NCAP, far side, and then 2022. It's worth noting that the far side template has both the far side and side as one of its properties, so it can be easily found. For starters, I'm going to click on the Euro NCAP side poll 2022, double click there, and it will open up. It will ask me to select a keyword, so I'll click OK. And I'm going to now select the master keyword file for the side poll. Next, it's going to check the file to see if it has any post-start data used to generate the template. And if it does, I've got the option to either use it or not. In this case, I'm going to manually input it, so I'll select no. I'm also going to select no to the CSV input. And then this is key. It's going to ask me if I'll be conducting a far-side analysis. And if so, I'll need to input some additional data that will be used to calculate the intrusion. If not, then I can select no, and I won't need to input that extra data. And D3plot also won't run. So that'll make the analysis a bit quicker and easier to fill in the primer variables. But if you want to have the intrusion data as we do, then we select yes. And then primer is going to be started to input the required data. Okay, so primer is now opened up, and we have the variable input field on the right hand side. And we can see that it's already by default selected the 50th percentile male dummy, and it's populated the IDs for the relevant nodes and springs and beams for the dummy. But we can also see that there's this other field here, and this is what is additional if we want to have the intrusion data. So I'm going to just populate that now and show you. It's worth also pointing out that we've added some hover functionality to some of the variables, so you can look at some additional information which will help prompt you if you're not totally sure what to be selecting. So first, we've got the door waistline node, and this is essentially defining the top of a bounding box that's given in the appendix I of the Euro NCAP far-side occupant test and assessment procedure. And so we just want to select the maximum Z coordinate of the door that is closest to the barrier in this case, because this is a side impact. So here's the door, and if I just move around the view, I want to select a node somewhere here because we only want to consider intrusion up to that point. So I'll just go to the drop down arrow and select here, and then I'll scroll in and select that node and apply. Now it's populated and we can see the field's white, which means it's a valid node. Okay, so next we want to get the headrest node here, and this is used to define the C bounding line. So essentially it's the X coordinates that's used. So I'm going to select here and select the node, You don't need to be too precise, it's just any node here on the headrest. So I'm just going to select this one here, and that's just going to be used to give us an X coordinate for the right hand line of the bounding box for the intrusion data. Apply, and it's populated. Now we want to select some door parts. So these will be the parts that the actual intrusion is measured on. So I'm just going to blank off some of the door parts so we can get a better picture of what we've got. I'll just highlight them and reverse, get rid of some of these things. If I press I, I'll just minimize that input field for a sec, and then I'll lock this view, and I'm just going to, I need to have a few more parts. Next we want to select some door parts. So here it says pick the door parts and pillar parts that we expect to protrude the most in the intrusion. So in this case, I'll just in the intrusion. So first of all, I'm just going to try and blank some parts that I think will be relevant. So I might just blank off some of the vehicle first of all, just to make it easier to see. I think I've actually blanked off some of the parts that I care about. So I'm just going to blank a few more things there, blank that off, and then so I don't care so much about these parts up the top. Okay, so next we need to select some door parts, and these are going to be the parts that we expect to intrude the most. So I'm just going to blank that off and then blank a few more parts in here that I think might be relevant. Maybe down at the bottom of the door and in the pillar. And it's okay, I'll blank more than I think I'll need to start with. Then I'll press reverse and have a look and see what we've got. So I don't need the barrier. I don't think I'll need this external frame. So I'll blank that off. And I'll blank this off as well because it's behind the green part here. I don't need the back door or the outer panel because that's not going to intrude as much as the inner panels. Don't need the rear one either. And I probably don't need this greeny part either. So now I've selected these parts. I'm going to now add them to my door parts list. So I'll just select here and drag over those parts and apply, and they're added to my list here. Next I'm going to unblank the vehicle. So next I need to select some shifter form nodes, and these are essentially used to give us a local coordinate system to measure the intrusion relative to. So you can imagine when the barrier strikes, the car might rotate a little, or the car might move into the barrier and rotate a little. And so we want to be using a cross-vehicle coordinate system that stays fixed in the frame of the vehicle rather than in the global system. So we just use this shifter form node coordinate system to basically achieve that so that we measure the intrusion in the correct direction. And so because of this, we want to make sure that the nodes we select are on parts that we don't expect to be affected by the barrier impact. So just pick some nodes. I'll select a node 1 here, and then a node 2 approximately in the X direction, global X here, so that one there, and then a node 3 which will just give us a Z coordinate, so just somewhere up on the pillar here. Cool, and now I've selected all of those. I can scroll down and I'm given the option to either save as post.rend or a CSV file. In this case I'm just going to select the CSV file, and that's going to write out the CSV file for reference and use later on. Next we're back to the standard procedure, so we need to select the analysis directory. So I'll do that, it'll be the default one here, and then an images directory, OK, images, select. And now we just let the analysis run. So first of all, it's going to open up Primer to extract some additional parameters that it needs. Then it will open up D3plot to calculate the side intrusion. And finally, it will open up thys to extract the analysis results and curves. Now that the generation is finished, I'm asked if I want to save out the data. In this case, I don't need to, so I'm just going to click cancel. It's going to finish generating the report. Now the template's finished generating, we can look through our analysis results and see them as before. Now I'm just going to show you an additional result that's been written out because we asked for the intrusion data. So if we look in our images directory here, we'll also see a Euro NCAP pull intrusion CSV. And if I open this up, we see we've got the max intrusion Y, a seat Y intrusion from seat centerline, and a barrier, so it's a pull that was used. Now I'm going to show you how to run the Euro NCAP far side impact using that intrusion data that we've just created. So I'll double click on the far side impact template, and now it's asking me to select a job file. So I click OK, and I select the far side pull 2022 keyword that I've got created. And now it's asking me if I want to use star end data. In this case, I'm going to manually input it, so I'll select no and no for the CSV. So it's now going to open up Primer. Now that Primer is open, we can see that just as before, it's been pre-populated with the 50th percentile world SID dummy and all of the IDs here. So we'll just scroll down, and all we have to do is populate the other field here. So first, the near seat center Y. So in this case, I'm just going to input, I know that's 345 in the Y direction. And then a cut section definition method. So I'm just going to use constant X, and this is essentially the cut plane that will be used to visualize the head excursion. So for the node 1, what I'm actually going to do is use the head node. So I'm just going to cut here, and I can see it's 10,001. So I'm just going to come down and enter that here. And then the shift to form nodes, so similar to the side impact, we want to select some nodes that aren't going to be affected in the impact. So we'll now select them on the door, which is again the far side from the barrier, away where we're not expecting any deformation. So we'll pick a node on the base here, and then second node roughly in the X direction, and then a third node giving us a local Z reference. Next we need to select head parts, and this is used to measure the head excursion, so any of the nodes that are part of this part will be considered and the maximum excursion node will be taken. So in this case I'm just going to pick and then select a part, and I'm just going to use these head contact shells, and I only need to select one. So that's a suitable part to pick. If you had multiple parts covering the head, then you would need to select those as well. But bearing in mind in this case, the head's going to move from the right to the left, and so we want to pick some parts that are on this side of the head. And lastly, the barrier parts, and we can leave this as 0 if we don't have a barrier, but in this case we've got a barrier, and this is just for the visualization. It will set it to be grey in the image that we'll see. So I'm just going to select that part, and that's just this one here. There's only one. Apply. And then now we have the option to say whether we have countermeasures or not, and this is as per the assessment protocol. So if I hover over here, we can see if it's got adequate countermeasure, either airbags or something like that. So in this case, I'm going to assume that it does. The units are all fine, so I'll then save this as a CSV, and now I'll continue with the report generation. So next I need to select that CSV that created from the side excursion, so click OK, and now I need to navigate to that. So that's up in the side pull here, and then images directory, and it's this Euro NCAP pull intrusion CSV. Click OK there, and now we need to select the directory with the analysis results. So I'll just select this one here, and then lastly where to write the images out. So it's images folder here. I'll select that. Now that it's finished extracting all the results, we are again presented with the option to save the report in various formats. I'm just going to click cancel, let it finish. And now we can see we've got the head excursion here. We can see that the head moves into the orange band. We have the excursion value, which is the displacement in the Y direction. This is the local Y of the car. And we also have these bands here. So the gray here is the capping zone. We see that we don't have any red or brown zone here, which means that essentially the intrusion measured from the side impact was greater than the seat center line. You can then scroll through and look at some other results. So that's just a quick overview of the side and far side impact templates new in 2022. I hope you found that useful, and thanks for listening.